I don't think this is a joke. This is a full-page ad on the back page of the current issue of Car and Driver. I kid you not. This is the May-June 2024 issue of Car and Driver magazine. And on the back, I mean, this is the actual magazine. We thumb through. Tesla Cybertruck is on the front. We've got an article on Tesla's new casting process, how revolutionary that is. There's a whole drive-around review of the Cybertruck. There's also some articles on EVs and charging, state-of-the-art technology, things to come. Interestingly, we have an article comparing the BMW M2 versus the Mustang Dark Horse, which I think is actually kind of a cool segue to what we see on the back page, which is this full-page ad talking about how Pontiac is coming back. And the reason that that's an interesting segue is that, of course, if you know anything about Pontiac, you know that they were always the performance brand for General Motors. It was the originator of the muscle car. It was the brand that GM really put out exciting vehicles, things that were fun to drive. We build excitement was their slogan. And it was really true. Pontiac was a fun brand. It was exciting. The things they came out with were fun, sporty cars to drive. They handled well. And they were still affordable and attainable, which I think has gotten lost since we lost Pontiac. But performance coupes, which, that article where we're talking about the BMW versus the Dark Horse, Pontiac could have something in that article as well. They could be comparing a model if they were still a brand. Now, if you know this channel, if you know me, I'm a bit of a Pontiac fan. Pontiac is a brand that GM actually deleted out of existence back in 2010. We'll get into the history of that. We'll talk a little bit about why that decision was made. There's a lot of misinformation out there. But we're also going to talk about why people think that this ad is a joke, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I don't think it is. So back in 2008, 2009, if you lived through that, you couldn't help but know that that was a big financial meltdown. There were a lot of really, really high pressures on every industry to cut costs, conserve capital. Housing market flipped upside down. People were losing their homes, and GM went bankrupt. So as a result of that, GM was forced to take some money from the government to stay afloat. If they didn't do that, they would have gone out of existence and we would have lost every brand within the GM stable. As a result of taking that money, General Motors was actually forced to eliminate some of their brands, cut costs, restructure, and one of the brands that was on the chopping block for consideration was Pontiac. At the time, there was a lot of overlap in the General Motors brands. You could still argue that that is the case today. One of the arguments of why Buick stayed and Pontiac was actually cut is that Buick does actually very well internationally. And one of the reasons why it does very well internationally is that in some other countries like China, people think that Americans love Buicks and that it's very popular here. Interestingly, it's, not that popular here. But there's a mystique around it, and it sells very, very well in China and some other countries. So for GM to axe the brand, even if it was just axing it here in the United States, it might mean a big loss for GM abroad. So Buick was chosen as a brand to stay. Pontiac had kind of gotten a little bit muddled with Chevrolet. There was a lot of overlap. So that brand was actually a little bit redundant for General Motors. Pontiac was still making a big comeback. We actually got to see some pretty exciting things again, like the Solstice, the G8, the GTO, even some of the G6 models were pretty exciting. It was really becoming General Motors' performance division again, which from the 60s on really was kind of the hallmark of Pontiac. It was, we build excitement, performance, fun. So I think there's a place for Pontiac now, and I think that's because if you look at GM's current lineup, everything kind of looks the same. Everything's going to SUVs, crossovers. There's room for a performance division to come back, especially when you look at some of the other announced vehicles that are going to be coming out in the next few years. One of which, it's pretty exciting. If you look at Dodge's lineup, the Charger and the Challenger are converting to one platform. Now, if you saw the Charger's unveil video, this release that Dodge put out, very, very questionable taste in terms of who guided this direction. We go back in time and talk to the Dodge brothers, and they get to see what's in the future. They talk about how Dodge is really, shaking things up, and they've got to continue to do what they're doing because the future needs them. It's a weird spot. The animation is also very weird. Just everything about the spot's weird, but the car itself is pretty exciting. Now they have changed the offerings. Challenger is no more. It's all Charger now. They've kind of combined those platforms into one because there's a 2-door and a 4-door version. That's pretty exciting. There's also an all-electric and a V6. I'm sorry, not V6, inline-6 option. We're losing the V8, but there is a 6-cylinder version, and they're calling that the 6-pack. Now, traditionally within Dodge history, the 6-pack, of course, referred to a 6-barrel carburetor. Now the 6-pack is the 6-cylinder engine, but it's pretty exciting. There's going to be 2 offerings. One's in the 400 horsepower range, one's in the 500 horsepower range. You just simply don't need V8s to get that kind of horsepower, that kind of performance. I think that's pretty exciting, and I think GM sees that there's a market for that, and I think that's where they're going to bring Pontiac back. That's what I think is our best case for this actually being a tease at what GM is actually considering. We're just going to read through the ad here. Pontiac fans, it's been a weird 15 years since we left, hasn't it? Now, we can't definitely say that Pontiac's absence influenced the events we all have been through, but come on. Caffeine comes out of Four Loko and now it's in lemonade? Everything on the road looks like an Aztec now? You need us. America needs us. The future needs us, so Pontiac is back. Our first model is a hybrid. Surprised? Well, it uses a battery and an electric motor to start a 667 horsepower supercharged 372 cubic inch V8. And we think you're going to want one, because what else are you going to do? You can't buy a new Dodge Challenger and leave the splitter guards on anymore. Don't worry, we got you. Our new car's entire front end is a splitter guard. At Pontiac, we're here to offer a future filled with V8s, great sounds, gold pinstripes, and window louvers. And if someone shouts last call, we'll just smuggle in some Coors from Colorado and keep the party going. There's a lot in there that you can unpack. I think this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but I think what this is saying is that GM is actually considering bringing this back, and they're letting us know that this is going to be really, really exciting. It's possible that some of these things are hinting at what's to come. Now, there is a disclaimer at the bottom, and I think this is why a lot of people are saying this is nothing more than a joke. It's a weird joke, but the disclaimer at the bottom says, do you need to be told that this advertisement is fake and not to be taken seriously? Our lawyers think you do. Whose lawyers, though? Is this an ad that was put in here by GM? Is this something that was just put in here by the Car and Driver staff? I don't know. This is an awful lot of ad space for Car and Driver just to put a joke in. I think GM bought this ad. I think they're teasing the market to see what the reaction is. There's some really, really compelling reasons why I think that this could be actually true. Now, obviously, there are some claims in there that seem a little bit far-fetched. There is a disclaimer that says that this is a fake ad. It's not to be taken seriously, but I want to look at some things here that I pulled up, and this is definitely worth considering and talking about. Now, if we look at GM's current financial reporting, these results came out in January of this year, so just a few months ago. General Motors has actually reclaimed the U.S. market share, and it leads with 16.4% of the U.S. market. So they are back on top as the leader of the U.S. automotive market. GM's commitment to an all-electric future is underscored by its ambitious EV capacity targets and innovative Ultium platform. Now, what that doesn't say is what's going to happen in that transition. I think GM's probably going to explore hybrids, as I do think most car makers will. I think we're seeing that EVs have a place, but I don't think that's going to be the end-all, be-all. Operational challenges persist with the cessation of Cruise's driverless AV robo-taxi service, highlighting the risks in AV autonomous vehicle strategy. So what's interesting there is GM has actually canceled the Cruise initiative, which was their autonomous driving platform. That means that GM has an awful lot of capital to allocate to something. Now, obviously, they are going to put a lot of that capital into furthering the EV space and their vehicles in that. But that also means that they might actually have quite a few dollars to play with, potentially, to relaunch a brand. And this brand could very easily be remarketed, pick right back up where it left off. We saw that with the Camaro. There were multiple years where that was off the market. It's actually off the market right now. GM stopped production of Camaro at the beginning of this year. That also leaves room for a new performance car to come into their lineup, something that's different than all the other brand offerings. And of course, Pontiac was best known for its performance sedans, performance cars. Everything in the automotive landscape today looks a little bit the same. It's a little ho-hum. Everything's going to small crossover and SUV. I think this is actually the perfect time for Pontiac to make a pretty big comeback. And it seems like somebody does here. Just a couple more points here. Let's read through and see. Let's see. GM's financial arm, GM Financial, continues to support the company's growth, leveraging its position since the acquisition of AmeriCredit. Basically, what that says is they're in a really strong financial position. And what happens when a company, public traded company like General Motors, that is a market leader, is in a very strong financial position? They start to launch new product, they start to launch new brands to attract new buyers. I think this is the perfect time for GM to bring Pontiac back. I don't know if GM paid for this ad. I don't know if this is something that Car and Driver put in. If they did, they would have had to have gotten GM's permission on this, because you can't just put the Firebird emblem, which GM owns, and the copyright to Pontiac in a fake ad. You could say it's parody and maybe that would be okay, but I think there's more to this than somebody just having fun with us. I think this is a tease at what's to come. If nobody says anything about this, if we don't comment on this, if we don't share this and it just sort of is here and no one talks about it, it's never going to happen. But I think this is an Easter egg that's put in here by GM to see what the reaction is. So I think we should do exactly what this says, and I think we should make some noise, and I think we should talk about this. I think GM is actually telling us what they want us to do if you want to see Pontiac return. They want to see people talking about this. They want to get feedback. They want to hear your input into what you think they should do. I think they should bring Pontiac back. It would make a much more exciting automotive landscape for the average person, for automotive enthusiasts. It would be a lot of fun, and they would sell a ton of them. There's a really, really hungry market out there that would, I'm convinced they would eat this up. Pontiac is back, make some noise. Let's make some noise, let's talk about this. If you think Pontiac should come back, let us know in the comments. Share this with people. If you don't think Pontiac should come back, tell us in the comments too. This could be really, really stimulating discussion. I'll add some comments as well. I'm going to tell you more about what I think. So let me know what you think. Share this with people if you like it. Give it a like, and definitely subscribe to our channel, because I'm going to cover this. We're trying to tell the automotive world's best stories. We've got several other videos on here that actually some of them talk about some historical Pontiac stuff that's exciting. So I am really looking forward to seeing what kind of conversation evolves on this. I'm definitely going to be following this myself. We're going to be putting out videos on this as well. So if you want to find out more, definitely subscribe. Can't wait to read the comments. Thanks for watching.